Hello, my name is Sofia, and I am currently a dietetic intern aspiring to become a registered dietitian. Today, I am excited to share this presentation with you to review a healthy holiday menu makeover so that you can enjoy a delicious and also a nutritious meal with your loved ones this holiday season. I first want to take some time to review that during this time of celebration with a lot of food, this is a time where you want to stay on track with your nutrition goals. A lot of people may veer from their nutrition goals during the holiday season and then say they're going to get back on track the first of the year. We don't really want to do that, but instead stay steady throughout the holiday season and still feel good about what you're eating. So I'm going to go through a few key points on how to do so. First, we want to start with our appetizers during our holiday feast. This will allow you to get some snacks in the beginning to fill you up slightly so that during the main meal you're not overeating or over consuming. So get a small appetizer plate and enjoy earlier in the day. When it does come time to the main meal, we want to balance your plate with a lot of different food groups and food varieties. So let's continue to go for lean protein options. We want some good sources of carbohydrates and also load up your plate with a lot of good vegetable dishes, maybe fruit options if that's on the menu. But make sure your plate is colorful with lots of different food groups and nutrients. We also want to be cognizant of portion control. A lot of times with buffets, it's really easy to get a lot of food, which can lead to overeating. Instead, let's try and eat similar to what you normally do by filling up your plate a good amount where you are feeling fueled, but not so much where you are stuffed to the point where you fall asleep right after the meal. And another important point is to take your time while you're eating. As you know, it can take days and hours to prepare for a holiday feast, and some families are done eating in mere minutes. Stop and enjoy all the time, effort, and love that was put in to this holiday meal. Taking your time also allows you to be aware of your hunger cues. So while you're eating, you can know if you're still hungry and then when you're starting to feel full so that, again, you don't overeat. And another important point is to stay guilt-free throughout this holiday season. It's a time to enjoy, it's a time to celebrate, and most importantly, spend time with the people you really care about. So if you go for food maybe you don't normally eat, don't feel shameful or guilty. Enjoy this time and keep moving forward with your nutrition goals. All right, so I want everyone to go ahead and get a cup of coffee, a cup of warm tea, and snuggle up on the couch, maybe next to your Christmas tree, as I'm about to take you on a journey through some holiday meal planning that's gonna be delicious and also packed with good nutrients for your body. We're going to go through all the courses of a menu, starting with beverages, then on to appetizers, side dishes, the main course, and lastly, dessert. With each part of the meal, I'm going to talk about good cooking preparation, different nutrition tips, specific recipes you can prepare, and I've also recorded a few demonstrations on cooking for you to watch. So let's get started. Let me first begin by reviewing cooking and nutrition tips and some healthy holiday swaps for beverages. So when we're thinking about what we want to drink during the holidays, we always want to begin with water. The holidays are a really busy time, and a lot of times we can forget to drink water or stay hydrated. So we want to avoid getting dehydrated from not drinking enough. So right in the beginning of the day, let's grab a cup of ice cold water, continue drinking water throughout the day. We can spice up this water and make it a little more festive by adding mint, berries, maybe some lemons or limes or cucumbers to give the water a nice flavor and also make it look very festive and appealing for our guests. I also want to note that it's important to try and limit your calories from drinks during the season. If you're drinking a lot of different glasses that have sugar in them, these calories can add up very quickly. So I'm going to go over some easy swaps momentarily, but just keep in mind that the best is water, but if you want to try something else, let's go with an option that has less sugar and less calories. Now, when it comes to alcohol, the best recommendation would be to not drink any alcohol at all. So if you're not an alcohol drinker, that's great. Keep with that, and you don't need to drink it through the day. But if you're someone who regularly consumes alcohol already, we want to really practice moderation during this season. So maybe try and have one glass or less during your holiday meal. So moving on to our healthy holiday swaps, as I just mentioned, sugar-sweetened beverages are going to have a lot of calories. So this is mainly our fountain drinks or sodas. So if you're someone who really enjoys the flavor and the carbonation of those drinks, let's try a sparkling water. This still has the carbonation, and a lot of different brands are going to have fun flavors. So you can try LaCroix, Ice, San Pellegrino, and many others. Moving on to a holiday classic of eggnog. If you like this traditional drink, maybe try cooking it with a low-fat dairy options. Also, if you want to make some hot chocolate, you might consider using dark chocolate and low-fat milk in the recipe. A lot of families will serve iced tea, either homemade or store-bought, but I would encourage you to buy or prepare unsweet iced tea, and then you and your guests can add moderate amounts of sugar to sweeten to taste. I know I myself enjoy having some coffee during dessert time, so maybe instead of having coffee with a lot of cream and sugar, ideally we could drink our coffee black, but if that is unreasonable, just do a dash of milk or cream and a little bit of sugar to taste. When we're coming up with our menu, ideally we can make some hot tea for dessert and not put any sweetener in it, or like I mentioned, the unsweet iced tea. Your guests may really enjoy making some warm apple cider with cinnamon, nutmeg, and other holiday spices. And then there's a hot pomegranate punch recipe, which I will be going over in the next slide. So here we have our hot pomegranate punch. The main ingredients are pomegranate juice, water, and orange juice, and then it's going to be seasoned with your oranges, cinnamon sticks, allspice, and it's sweetened with honey. In the next slide, I'm going to show you a quick video outlining how to prepare this delicious and comforting drink. Okay, so first to make our hot pomegranate punch, I have the Instapot or Crock-Pot here. If you want, you can use the stove, but I'm going to add 1 quart of water, 1 quart of pomegranate juice. This is going to give you a lot of antioxidants to support your immune system. We've got a cup of orange juice, half a cup of honey, ginger, and oranges. Alrighty, so we have our hot pomegranate punch warming up. If you want, feel free to add some wine for the adult crowd, but it's totally optional. So this has been warming for about an hour. It's ready to into my glass. Very comforting. I can't wait for everyone to try. All right, so I hope everyone will maybe want to try that hot pomegranate punch recipe. And now we're gonna move into our appetizers. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this is a good time to grab a little plate of food to keep you from overeating later on in the meal. And I'm gonna go through a lot of recipes that will be good crowd pleasers that also have some great nutrients in it. So this main picture shows a charcuterie board, which has been a big trend lately. It's something that is super appealing and delicious. So on your charcuterie board, we want to use some cheeses and go for our lower fat options. A lot of people also like to add meats. These meats can often have a lot of sodium or fat in them, but if you want to include meat there, let's go for some leaner options. There's also a good opportunity to add some fruit with grapes and apples, as they pair really nicely with your cheeses. If you want to add some crackers, maybe we could try some whole grain crackers. Good pairings to dip your crackers into is also salsa. You get some good vegetable tomato portion in there. Hummus is a wonderful option. It's a good source of protein made from garbanzo beans. Guacamole also has the avocado, which is a healthy fat with a lot of great nutrients. You could also create a vegetable platter made with a wide variety of different colored vegetables that you can dip into a Greek yogurt dip, such as tzatziki or other recipes. Another fun festive dish would be a shrimp cocktail, where you serve the cold shrimp with some sauce for everyone to enjoy. Next, let's discuss some nutrition and cooking tips for our side dishes, as well as some healthier menu item swaps. So when we're thinking about what to make, let's try and prepare food items that are lower in fat. So a lot of our side dishes are casseroles that have a lot of butter or high-fat dairy products. So instead, the best side dishes that I would recommend are piling on some vegetable items. We talked earlier in the presentation about getting all your food groups onto your plate, including vegetables, as well as including nutrient-dense food items. Vegetable side dishes is going to be one of the best ways to do so. I know it can be challenging to get certain family members, especially children, to try different vegetable dishes. However, by getting creative in the kitchen, they might be more open. So we can try preparing vegetables in different ways, such as baking in the oven, steaming them over boiling water, or quickly blanching them in boiling water. A lot of these cooking methods create a great texture in the vegetables that kids will enjoy. And I also want to encourage you to try a lot of different spices and seasonings to create powerful flavors. If you also have a family member who's trying to watch their salt and sodium intake, a good way to decrease adding salt to dishes is increase seasoning and spices to still get a very enjoyable flavor. So when we're specifically talking about menu item swaps, I know a lot of people are going to serve bread and butter. So instead, I want you to think about serving whole grain bread and olive oil. Whole grain bread has a lot of good fiber to improve your digestive health as well as other nutrients. A lot of these are removed during the refining process when making white flour, so whole grain bread is your best option for the most amount of nutrients. Additionally, olive oil is a healthier option than butter because olive oil is a unsaturated fat while butter is a saturated fat. The easiest way to remember the difference between the two is that saturated fats are solid at room temperature, like butter, lard, and other similar items. In contrast, unsaturated fatty acids are liquid at room temperature, like olive oil, canola oil, and vegetable oil. Our butter and lard is going to be high in cholesterol and can cause some heart complications. Therefore, we want to decrease our consumption of butter and have more olive oil. I do want to note that olive oil is a pure fat, whereas butter has some water and proteins in it. Therefore, the fat grams and calories in the liquid fats are actually more concentrated than butter. Therefore, when we're replacing olive oil with butter, it's actually a 3/4 cup of oil to 1 cup of butter to get the same amount of fat. It's just that your oil is a healthier version. Next, let's talk about our salad with ranch dressing. So ranch dressing is going to be high in fat, so instead you might want to try a Greek yogurt ranch or even a balsamic vinaigrette, which is based in olive oil and balsamic vinegar. When we're making our mashed potatoes, you might want to substitute cream or whole milk with low-fat milk. You can replace your butter with avocado butter, and some people could even consider preparing mashed cauliflower. It has the same creamy and delicious texture. And then instead of making a green bean casserole, kind of going back to what I was discussing at the beginning of the slide, we can make some garlic and Parmesan blanched green beans, which are still delicious but have far fewer calories. So I'm going to go through a recipe that makes roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes. So we've got our Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, and onions seasoned with olive oil, garlic, chili powder, salt, and pepper. And then for some fun color and crunch, we're adding craisins, pecans, and topping it with some Parmesan cheese. So in the next slide, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to prepare this recipe.
Hi! Today I am excited to share with you how to prepare some roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes for your next holiday meal. I've already got the oven preheated to 400 degrees, and now we're going to go ahead and start chopping all of our vegetables. So here I have the Brussels sprouts, an onion, and 2 sweet potatoes. The Brussels sprouts have already been rinsed, and I went ahead and peeled the sweet potatoes. So to start, I'm going to get my Brussels sprouts and chop the ends off here real quick because we don't want to eat that. It's not very delicious. And then I'm going to half all my Brussels sprouts and put them into the bowl just like that. So very simple. I'm not sure if you normally make Brussels sprouts for a holiday meal. Sometimes it can be difficult to get your kids to eat a lot of vegetables, and I think most kids don't really like them, or most people even have a hard time. But we have fresh Brussels sprouts here, so they have a really nice texture. And when we bake them in the high heat in the oven, they come out crispy and delicious, especially with all the seasonings and the flavors that I'm gonna add. I think your family is really going to enjoy them this season. So as we try and transform our holiday meals to stay on track with your nutrition goals, one of the best ways to do that is fill up with vegetables on the side. And there's lots of different ways to prepare vegetables. Today we're going to be baking in the oven, and this allows for a lot of crispy flavor, but you can also steam. You can steam your Brussels sprouts, so you get the pot of water boiling, and then you put the Brussels sprouts in another pan on top, and the moisture from the water cooks the Brussels sprouts through. This is one of the healthiest ways to cook vegetables because you're not adding in any calories from oil or butter or anything like that. You could also blanch your vegetables, and that is just boiling a pot of water, adding the vegetables in, and they cook really quickly. It only takes about 5-ish minutes, and you don't want to cook them too long, or else some of the water can kill the nutrients in your vegetables, but then they come out perfectly. My favorite way to cook Brussels sprouts specifically is in the oven, which is what we're doing today, but as you can see, it's very versatile on what works best. If you already have a lot of stuff taking up room in the oven, those are good alternatives. All right, so we're down to our last Brussels sprout. Next, I'm gonna move on to our sweet potatoes here. So I'm gonna cut this smaller one into thirds. Oops. Gotta use a large chef knife because sometimes they can be hard to cut through. But I'm just gonna cube them, try and make them the same size or a little smaller than the Brussels sprouts. They have a harder consistency or texture, so they tend to take a little longer to soften in the oven than the Brussels sprouts do. So we wanna make sure size is even and proportionate to get the best style of cooking. Okay, so I'm just continuing to cut up this sweet potato. And to highlight a nutrient in sweet potatoes, it has a great source of beta carotene and vitamin A. That's the big sweet potato. So that nutrient is really important for proper night vision, growth, development, and it's a great nutrient to try and get in your diet regularly. So beta carotene and vitamin A is often in any fruit or vegetable that has a red or orange color to it. So we've got sweet potatoes, pumpkins, tomatoes, carrots, and all those wonderful vegetables. All right, so we have sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts finished cutting. So lastly, I'm just gonna add my onion, 1 small to medium onion. And the way I like to cut them is first in half, and then on the side here you have where the root was. I'm gonna slice the other side, and then I get to peel the outer layer off. Hopefully I won't be crying. Sometimes that happens when you peel onions. I know I have some friends who will wear goggles, so they don't start crying. But then I'm just gonna slice my knife to the end of that root like this. And cut the end off. And now we have beautiful slices of onion. I'm just gonna break it up in my bowl here. And I'm just gonna do the same with the other half of the onion. Doesn't look like I'll be shedding any tears, so that's a plus. And when I'm using my knife, I want to be cognizant to curl my hand, kind of like a claw, so that if I accidentally cut myself, I'll hit my nail instead of my finger. So we want to avoid any sort of injury while we're cooking. All right, so we've basically just done a lot of chopping. So now is the fun part where we add seasoning and flavor. I'm gonna drizzle my olive oil. Olive oil is a great fat. It's unsaturated, so it's liquid at room temperature. It's got a lot of good nutrients for you, and it's a lower fat option. So I'm just gonna make sure everything is fully coated. And then we will be seasoning our vegetables with a blend of garlic powder, salt, pepper, and chili powder. And this is really just gonna make the dish super flavorful and enjoyable, and one that everyone is going to love. So we're just gonna mix this all together. I have my baking sheet here next to me. I just love how colorful this dish looks. It's beautiful and inviting. All right, so now I'm gonna throw my vegetables in the oven at 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we'll check back in. All right, so our vegetables were cooking in the oven for about 30 minutes, and as you can see, they're crispy and perfectly cooked. So now to top off our dish and make it a little more festive, I have some craisins here. It's gonna add a pop of color and some sweetness, and then some pecans for a nice crunch. Also, my favorite ingredient is a nice Parmesan cheese that we're just gonna grate in here. Perfect. I like a lot of cheese. All right, there we go. Hope you and your family enjoy this holiday season with a nice side of vegetables.
All right, so that's a wonderful dish that you and your family can try out this holiday season. Now we're going to move into talking about main dishes. So for our cooking and nutrition tips, it's best to choose leaner protein options, and you may even want to go ahead and prepare some vegetarian options for your main dish. Maybe you have a vegetarian in your family, or you just want to avoid some meat altogether and go for high plant protein and add a lot of vegetables. So when we're talking about menu item swaps, a lot of people will cook a ham, but this protein actually has a higher fat content. So maybe you want to transition and make a seafood dish, which is a lot lower in fat. So this could include baked salmon, some tilapia, some shrimp or scallops, or anything from the ocean. Also, when you cook chicken or turkey, these are both protein items that are lower in fat. We want to eat the white meat or the breast without the skin, because the darker meat and the skin has a lot of calories in it. So the healthier option would be the breast. Some people make their own gravy, but if you're someone who wants a convenient way to use gravy mix, maybe opt to buy the lower sodium option. For our vegetarian menu items, you could make some stuffed eggplant or stuffed pepper to really make your menu versatile for all crowds. Last but certainly not least, let's review our dessert course of the meal. I want to make an important note that you do not have to skip dessert altogether during our holiday meal. As I've been saying multiple times throughout this webinar, the holidays are a time for joy and celebration. So you want to be able to taste some sweet treats, but the biggest thing to keep in mind is to consume smaller portions. So we just want to have maybe one cookie or a very small piece of cake. When you're specifically cooking or preparing desserts, I'm going to go over a few ingredients that you may be able to use to increase the nutrients and decrease a lot of calories. So first, you have the option to bake with whole grain flour. The grocery stores will sell whole grain all-purpose flour, whole grain pastry flour, or any of your flour needs. If you don't think your family will enjoy a dessert prepared entirely with whole grain flour, you might consider doing half of the flour as white flour and the other half as whole grain. We also want to try to reduce the amount of sugar in our recipes. Therefore, to start, you can actually just add less sugar than the recipe calls for and increase with more spices like cinnamon or nutmeg. Additionally, you can use agave nectar instead of honey. Agave nectar is a much sweeter source of sugar and carbs, so you can add far less agave nectar to recipes than honey, but still get that sweet flavor. Applesauce is another great way to get a nice fruity sweetness into your desserts. It's a great way to increase moisture when you're baking muffins or cakes, and you also even sneak in a little bit of fruit. If you're cooking with chocolate or you're adding chocolate chips, dark chocolate is a great option to use instead of regular milk chocolate. We also want to try to reduce the amount of fat in recipes. Therefore, you can use Greek yogurt or low-fat milks instead of full-fat dairy. When you're trying to decide what desserts you want to make for your holiday menu, an apple crisp or a fruit cobbler are both great options because that way you're gonna sneak in a nice fruit serving. You can also just put a whole bowl of fruit on the table. It's very colorful and vibrant, and you can use fruits that are in season, such as pomegranates or citrus fruits. And then in the next slide, I'm going to specifically review how to prepare chocolate avocado pudding. So for avocado chocolate pudding, a lot of times chocolate pudding is made with milk and it takes a while to prepare on the stove, but this is a really simple and quick recipe. You're probably not even going to taste the avocado, and it's going to be creamy and delicious. So it has the basic ingredients here, and in our next slide, I'm going to go through how to prepare it.
Go. All right, so today we are going to be making some avocado chocolate pudding for our healthy holiday dessert. A lot of time pudding is made on the stove with milk and chocolate, and it takes a really long time, but with this recipe, the avocado is going to add a lot of creaminess. You just put it in the blender, let it chill for a little bit, and then you're good to go, and your family will love it. They probably won't even know it has avocado in it to begin with. All right, so first, I'm gonna cut our avocado. I already cut into this one. It had a few brown spots, but it's totally fine, so I just kind of cut them out, and I'm just gonna scoop what I can into the blender. You know, you can always, that's perfect. And then we have this avocado that I'm gonna cut into, hopefully this one. It feels nice, so hopefully it's a little bit greener. It's perfect. All right, so I'm just gonna scoop this one in. And one way I like to get the seed out, you have to be careful, but you just put the knife in and twist it, and it pops right out. So we have 2 avocados here in our recipe today. All right, next I'm gonna add 1/3 of a cup of milk. This is almond milk, but you could use regular or low-fat milk, coconut milk, anything you want. Okay. I have some cocoa powder here. It's unsweetened, but it's gonna give a nice chocolate flavor. This is our sugar. So you can use brown sugar, but today this is actually coconut sugar. So it's a good sugar substitute that tastes great, but isn't added sugar. We have a teaspoon of vanilla, so also flavor. And then just a pinch of cinnamon for some holiday taste. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the lid on my blender, and we're gonna blend it up for about a minute. Go. All right, so we've ended up blending our pudding for about a minute. I put it in a bowl and stuck it in the fridge. It needs to chill for about 30 minutes. And then we take it out, and it's perfect. Let's just go ahead and take a bite. Creamy and decadent. Your family will love it.
Well, I hope that you have enjoyed our presentation today, reviewing how to edit your holiday menu that your family will enjoy, and it will also add some nutrition to your diet. So I want to leave you with these 3 key points. First, make sure to take time and enjoy the holidays. Don't stress about your weight or feeling guilty, but just have fun with your family and create recipes that you will love, and recipes that will also enable you to stay on track with your nutrition goals, get that variety of food on your plate in moderation, and enjoy. I also hope that you will try some new holiday swap recipes that you can create as family tradition for years to come. Thank you for listening and joining me with this presentation. I hope that it has been helpful and that it will really transform your holiday menu. Thank you. I would like to take a moment and thank the sponsors of this webinar. This presentation was sponsored by Verdant Health Commission and Still Valley Health Connections. As a dietetic intern, it is a pleasure and an honor to be able to have the opportunity to learn about the field of nutrition and dietetics and hopefully spread helpful nutrition, education, and tips to many people to help improve everyone's overall health and well-being through food and nutrition. Thank you.